Welcome to an all-new episode of Looks and Wisdom Sundays with me, Oluchibi.
Hey guys, and welcome to another exciting episode of Looks and Wisdom Sundays with me, Oluchibi, aka the Elusive Pundit. Honey, how are you doing? Well, on my side, I'm doing well. I think I'm recovering from the flu that I've had for now over like 3 weeks, I think. So in the month of April, I decided to focus on emotions as messengers, emotions as messages. The reason why I decided to focus on emotions because I feel like emotions are very, very disrespected by human beings. And also we are not using emotions for what they are supposed to be for, which is to basically tell you a message about what you are going through and to basically help you move through whatever you're going through. I decided to focus mainly on some of the emotions that are highly misconstrued in terms of what they come to tell us. So 2 weeks ago, I decided to focus on anger. Last week, I focused on jealousy. This week, we are focusing on shame. Shame, 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 shame on you. I will be breaking down my talk into 4 main topics. The first one is what is shame, basically the definition of shame. And then immediately after that, I will talk about the different types of shames that we experience as human beings in our life. And then after that, I will talk about the causes and impact of shame. And lastly, how to cope with shame. So without further ado, let's get to our first main talking point, which is the definition of shame. What is shame? So the definition of shame that I have here says that shame is a feeling of embarrassment or humiliation that arises from the perception of having done something dishonorable, immoral, or improper. On this definition, I just want to highlight one thing, which is perception that you have done something that is wrong. So while shame is a negative emotion, it originates from our need to survive as a species. Shame was used to get people to adhere to cultural and societal norms so that everybody could act and do the same thing over time. Shame can be very problematic if it is internalized and not used as a guide that you might or might not be doing something wrong based on what you understand to be your morality or moral compass. Moral compass is the one. I did say English is not my So the only time that shame can be problematic is when it is internalized. And I'm going to go into why I titled my topic the way I titled it, which is shame being the most internalized emotion and why it shouldn't. So basically, shame is only problematic when we internalize it and we are overly harsh towards our own selves and how we evaluate the act that had taken place that we are now deeming to be a very, very shameful act. So there are a lot of different types of shames that I can talk about, and I don't want to do that. So I decided to narrow it down to some of the common shames. Shames? To some of the common shames. You get what I'm saying. So the first one is chronic shame, which is like the most common type of shame that we all experience. And this shame makes you feel like you are not good enough. You haven't done what you are supposed to do on your side. And you are feeling very shameful about that. A very, very easy and typical example here in South Africa is the shame that some people have for not having completed their matrics or matriculated in matric. Yeah, I know the English is not coming through today, eh? So basically someone who has not matriculated, because matriculating is deemed like a stepping stone for someone who wants to have a corporate career. So a lot of the common shame, which is a chronic shame, comes from that. The second type of shame we experience as human beings is the humiliation type of shame. So, humiliation is one of the most intense forms of shame and comes about when we are critically embarrassed about something. Often, this is felt when something happens in front of other people. Drunk nights, literally, are some of the nights that bring about humiliation. A lot of things can happen in drunken nights. I don't want to make any type of example. So basically, a situation that happened to you that you're highly embarrassed about, where other people were also present to witness that. The third type of shame that we feel is defeat. So basically, when you have put a plan together and it hasn't come through. I don't want to make examples about myself because I did that in January or February when I did failure. But basically, when you have lost something, you have lost a job, you have lost the love of your life, you have lost a contract or tender that was going to bring you millions. So now you are experiencing shame in the form of defeat. So the next type of shame we experience is the shame about self. So you're feeling inferior to other people. For example, if you lost your job and you have to start at the bottom, you're feeling embarrassed that you have to start again from the bottom. Another type of shame is unrequited love, where you are embarrassed because you have put yourself in a situation that ultimately did not work for you and you are feeling like you are not good enough for the next person. The next type of shame is unwanted exposure. We see this a lot on the internet. Basically, someone putting a video of you doing something and you feeling highly embarrassed about it. Revenge porn falls under this category. So the last type of shame I want to talk about is a healthy shame. Yes, I wanted to add that there is a healthy aspect of shame. And this shame also exists, and it is healthy when it causes you to have humility, allow yourself to laugh at yourself, and you are humble and you allow this type of shame to teach you something about yourself, whether it is to create more boundaries or to grow up and stop hanging with certain people that are going to take videos of you and put it on the internet. So basically, the type of shame that is positive or healthy is the one where you are using it to sort of like self-develop to be better for your own self. Not that it's not shameful, but you are viewing that shame from a more positive aspect of. Okay, now we're going to talk about the causes of shame because we've just spoken about the different types of shame that we experience. Now we're going to talk about what causes shame. So some of the causes of shame are childhood trauma and neglect by either your guardians or your parents, and now you have shame based on your upbringing. Any type of mental disorder, social anxiety disorder, all of these type of disorders. And the third type of shame is not living up to the overly high standards that you set for your own self. Oh, I'm not perfect. Oh, I'm not this. Oh, I'm not that. And then feeling as if you are flawed or deeply inadequate. And then another one is you being a victim of bullying, whether in the office or at school. Like, another cause of shame is you don't meet your own expectations or you experience some type of failure in your life that makes you feel as if you're not living up to par with where you think you're supposed to be. Now that we have spoken about some of the causes of shame, then we need to speak about the impact of shame. That it can make us feel like we are flawed and that there is something wrong with us. It can lead us to withdraw from society because we feel like what we've done is too much and we don't want to face other human beings for further judgment. Shame can also lead to addictions, drugs, alcohol, sex. Shame can also cause us to be highly defensive. Shame can lead us to bullying other people because we want other people to experience the type of negativity that we feel within ourselves. And for some strange reason, shame can also inflate one's ego. And I mean, that just comes from that defense mechanism. So I named this episode Shame as the most internalized emotion that doesn't belong to us. And this segment is going to speak into that. And so there's two things. There is shame and there is guilt. And guilt is generally about something that you have done. And this is making you feel bad because you believe that it is wrong. You shouldn't have done it in the first place. So it's you to someone else. So you have control over the actions that you have exerted. And then shame on the other side, shame refers to something about your character or who you are as a person that you believe is unacceptable. Shame is not about doing wrong. Shame is about feeling that you perceive that you are not good enough in some way. Guilt, you do something and you feel bad about it. Shame, you basically assassinating things about yourself that you can't necessarily change because your character exists the way it does. Who you are as a person and your behaviors exist as the way that they do. And if someone comes into your world and violates you, whether it's sexually, behaviorally, or just physical violation, which is oftentimes the deepest shame that we carry, that was someone bringing something into your world. What we need to understand about shame is that a lot of it comes from circumstances that we had no control over in the first place, which is why you shouldn't internalize it, and it doesn't belong to you, and it has nothing to do with anything that you can change. And now to the last segment of the show, how to cope with shame. So the first thing that you need to do is to explore your shame. So I'm going to talk about someone who has been violated by another person because I feel like that's an easier way to explain this. So explore your shame. So the first step in moving on from shame is to understand what that shame is about. So if someone came to your house and violated you, the first thing you need to do is to explore that shame. And again, I will always take you into that. Was it my conjuring? Did I ask for this? Am I the one who's supposed to be feeling the shame? So explore that shame first and foremost. And secondly, you need to embrace that shame. So this is you identifying that shame in that exploration phase and then acknowledging that shame and then working towards embracing that shame. So it's something that has already happened. So you know what it is and you have identified it. Now it's time for you to embrace it. And then the third thing that you need to do is you need to aim for acceptance. And acceptance for me is one of the first things that I do in every situation. And I mean, it makes my life easier because then I have to go through that wheel of grieving. What is that 5-step wheel called? That grief, denial, blah, 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 blah. Yeah, so that's what I'm saying is that aim for acceptance. This is you going through the process, whatever you need to do in terms of action. This is where you do it. Okay, I've accepted it. This is how I move on from this. This is what I need to do. I need to go to therapy. I need to go confront this person. I need to open a case. I need to. This is when you are now sitting in front of the shame instead of you letting it eat you up and put you in humiliation mode, in embarrassed mode. And then last but not least, if it was an outside violation, then you need to start creating boundaries. Okay, this is how I stop this from happening to me going forward. I'm going to block this person. I'm not going to allow this type of energy in my life. I'm going to put these type of boundaries, etc., etc. So last but not least, just on my side, is that shame does not belong to you because we don't conjure up things that bring us shame. Shame comes from outside in, which is why you shouldn't internalize it. You must just explore the shame, embrace the shame, accept the shame, and then put actionable items, create boundaries, open a case, do all these things that are going to help you to move past that. Shame is not yours. Shame is just a feeling that we experience because of the way in which we perceive things. And I hope this can help someone else. Thank you guys for tuning in today, and thank you so much for supporting my little channel over here. Hopefully you guys can like, comment, subscribe, and share this wisdom with your friends. I will see you next week for the final episode on emotions as messengers, and it's gonna be a hard topic. How you doing?